In my travels, I've collected the notes of many people I've met. They come in handy sometimes though. Oftentimes it's just a reminder of the things I've done, and the places I've been. One place in particular that comes to mind is an old story told by an old friend. It was back in 1998 when I'd met Mr. Mays. He was a memorable person, for reasons other than just his story. He was a witty man, with a thick beard and moustache combo that was rare for the time, a slightly overweight but well-dressed man, who seemed to always have a few days' worth of stubble on his face. I'd been referred to Mr. Mays by a colleague of mine from the university, who had described him as an enthusiastic historian with quite a few interesting stories to tell. At the time, I had been working on a piece about local legends and ghost stories, and my colleague assured me that Mr. Mays was a treasure trove of just that sort of thing. I met Mr. Mays at his home on a crisp October afternoon. His house was filled with bookshelves, each shelf bursting with books, and he greeted me warmly as I stepped inside. After offering me a cup of coffee, we settled into his study, and he began to tell me about his childhood in a small town in the Midwest. The story that he shared with me that day has stuck with me for years, and it's one that I've told many times, often around campfires or at Halloween parties. It's a story that seems to get under people's skin, just as it got under mine when I first heard it. Mr. Mays began his tale by explaining that when he was a boy, there was a building on the outskirts of town that everyone called the Showers. It was a large, brick building that had once been a school, but had been abandoned for as long as anyone could remember. The windows were broken, the doors were boarded up, and the yard was overgrown with weeds and vines. But it wasn't the building itself that made it so creepy. It was the rumors that surrounded it. According to local legend, the Showers was haunted. People said that if you went inside, you would never come out again. Others claimed that strange lights could be seen in the windows at night, and that if you listened closely, you could hear the sound of running water coming from inside the building. Of course, being young and adventurous, Mr. Mays and his friends couldn't resist the temptation to explore the Showers for themselves. One Saturday afternoon, they gathered their courage and made their way to the building. They pried open one of the boards that covered a window and climbed inside, their hearts pounding with excitement and fear. Once inside, they found themselves in a long hallway, lined with classrooms on either side. The air was thick with dust, and the only light came from the broken windows, casting eerie shadows on the walls. They made their way down the hallway, their footsteps echoing in the silence, until they reached the end of the hall, where a set of double doors led to the basement. This was where things started to get really creepy. As they descended the stairs, the air grew colder, and the sound of running water grew louder. At the bottom of the stairs, they found themselves in a large, open room, with a row of old, rusty showers along one wall. The floor was covered in a thin layer of water, and the smell of mildew was overpowering. But what really unnerved them was the symbol that was painted on the floor. It was a large, black circle with a strange, twisted design in the center. None of them had ever seen anything like it before, and it gave them the creeps just looking at it. They didn't stick around to find out what it meant. They quickly made their way back up the stairs and out of the building, their fear turning into a full-blown panic as they ran back to the safety of their homes. Mr. Mays paused at this point in the story, taking a sip of his coffee and giving me a knowing look. He didn't need to say it, but I could tell that this was just the beginning of the story, and that things were about to get much worse. He went on to explain that, despite their fear, they couldn't shake the feeling that there was something important about the Showers, something that they needed to understand. Over the next few days, they did some research at the local library, hoping to find some clue.